Hi, welcome to Candidly Fierce. My name is Terese Alexander, and I am so happy that you're here with us today. Candidly Fierce is a podcast where we're talking about everything finance, right? What does that mean? Love and finance, finance and finance, retirements, life, anything that promotes happiness and freedom. Candidly Fierce is powered by Fierce Financial Services. Fierce Financial Services stands for faithfully investing, educating, reaching, changing, and evolving our community, right? So how do you do that? You do that by living a fierce lifestyle, right? So we're going to kick it off today by just talking about how exactly you get started with that, right? And I thought no way was more important than talking about mindset and mindset changes, right? So how this podcast works is you will have me as your finance expert. I am also the proud owner and founder of Fierce Financial Services. And we'll have everyday people from everyday industries talk about money. I believe that table talks around money should come back. I want to normalize financial conversations, right? We all talk about money behind closed doors. However, for whatever reason, we can't sit down around the table and just talk about money and how it affects us and how it plays towards our mindset. So talking about mindset, our question today is, when is the first time that money had an impact on your life? When was the first time that you were affected by money? Money played a part in some decision that you made, and it may not be something that was directly affected with you and money. Maybe it's something that happened to you. Maybe it's something that you witnessed. Maybe it is a family member. However, we're going to talk directly about you and money. To kick it off, once again, I'm Terese. I want to go around so we can introduce all of our special guests today. And let's start with Kelly.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Prout. I work in the IT industry / banking.
Next, let's go with Akorji.
Hi, everyone. My name is Akorji Okizi. I'm 34 years old, and I work as an accountant for a nonprofit organization, the Latin American Youth Center.
Hey, thanks, Akorji, for being here. And last but not least, Ty.
Hi, my name is Tyshee Cherie Stone. I'm 38 years old, and I am a teacher.
Hi, Ty. Thanks for being here. So before we get started, I know the topic is something that's going to be personal. So I want to first thank everyone for opening up and speaking on their experience. I really believe that our testimonies for not only ourselves, but for others that could be walking the same path that we walk down, right? So I think that we're going to use this platform to be blessed, to be a blessing, so we can bless someone else. So going to the question was, talk about the first time that money had an impact on your life, right? So I believe in leading by example, so I'll go first. The first time money had an impact on my life was when I was a freshman in high school on my way to a Black Expo conference. It was a 7-day conference on a bus trip. And my father dropped me off at the charter bus as my mom was working, and that's normally who drops me off. And I didn't have any spending money, right? So normally when my mom drops me off, she would give me the money for spending money, or I would at least know what the plan was, right? So this time my dad pulled up. I am in the McDonald's parking lot, and he gave me $20 for a 7-day trip. Out of that $20, he told me to go into McDonald's and buy him a meal, and I could keep the change, and the change is what I was going to take on the trip for me. And so I kept thinking he was playing, right? I was like, yo, you have to be serious. Like, what am I supposed to do with the change, whatever the change is, to go on a 7-day trip out of town? Like, you don't love me, you can't give me more money than this. Right. And so long story short, I went in, I got his food, I came back, called his bluff, and I had $6.52 in my pocket. And that is all he expected me to go. And I cried and cried and begged and begged. And he seemed to be unbothered and did not care. right? He never said, well, do what you have to do. He never said anything. He was just like, you're going to be okay. You'll figure it out. Stop begging. My children don't beg. Like, no, that's not how I taught you. Man up. And I was like, this man is crazy. What the hell am I supposed to do with $6.52 for a 7-day trip? Like, how am I supposed to eat? What am I supposed to do? My friends are out here watching me. I'm crying. Other parents are trying to console me. And my father seems unbothered. So what I did not know is that my mother had made arrangements with one of the host parents / chaperones to meet the bus along the way and give spending money. And however, if I needed anything along the way, that another chaperone was supposed to give me money. So that's my story that impacted me. My follow-up question is, how does that affect how you spend money today? And does it affect how you look at money today, or did it have any type of life changes on you? And so my answer to that question is yes. So now I don't ask anybody for anything. I don't ask anybody for help. I don't ask anybody for money. I don't ask anybody for anything. I feel like, as my father said, I need to man up and do it on my own, right? I will never allow anybody else to watch me cry, beg, nothing. No one gets that much power over me again. And so because no one gets that much power over me again, I don't ask anybody. I don't do anything for anybody. I could be homeless and in a box. Thank God I've never been homeless in a box. But I can be homeless in a box and no one would actually know that I was homeless and or in a box. How do I treat people? I remember all the time how I felt in that moment, right? I remember my father driving away from me as I was crying in a parking lot. So therefore, I never want anybody else to feel that way either. So if anybody comes to me to tell me that they need anything, no matter what it is, guess what? I'm always going to give them what they need, because I never want anyone to feel the way I felt in that moment. It's taken a long time to kind of pick and choose who I help, because it blows my budget at times. But that's just who I am and how I let money and my past kind of dictate my future. So I would like to, that's my story. I would like to ask if anyone wants to go next, if anything comes to mind for anyone else.
So I had two scenarios where I guess I realized the importance of money. First scenario was when I was about 8 or 9. My family decided that we were going to Disney World for vacation the next summer. And my dad was like, all right, we're going to Disney World. We have to save for it. So we saved for the Disney World trip as a family. We collected dimes, nickels, mostly quarters. And each Sunday for a full year, we would do 4 rows of quarters and calculate how much money we had saved towards the Disney World trip. And over the course of a year, we saved about $500 in quarters. And that was our contribution towards the Disney World trip. So my brother and I, we would, they would give us allowance or money from the ice cream park. We would have this big old jar and we would the spare change, just drop it in there. And I'm sure my parents were contributing also, but we saved change for a year. That taught me the importance of saving for things, for not immediate gratification, but saving for it. Even though it took a full year, we were able to enjoy that Disney World trip. And I'm pretty sure that was probably 92, 93. So I don't know how expensive the hotels and stuff were back then, but probably got us a day or two in Disney. The second story was as an adult. I moved from Alabama to Maryland in 2012. And I left a crazy relationship in Alabama. And make a long story short, I packed up everything I could and I left my 4-bedroom house and moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in a span of 3 days from Alabama. And I was not financially prepared for that journey. I brought my Alabama salary to Laurel, Maryland. If anybody's familiar with the DMV area, it's very expensive. And literally my bills tripled overnight I ended up getting a renter after a couple months, and things started falling apart with the house. So, you know, when you have a house, things happen. I ended up getting mold. I hired a contractor. Contractor tiled on top of tile, didn't take those stuff out. So guess what? He ran with my money, did the work, couldn't find them anymore, had to pay another contractor. I had the tenant move out. Someone broke in, stole my pipes, my stove, refrigerator, everything. And financially, I just could not keep up the house. Then I started doing the hustle. I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. I was working I worked 2 jobs for about 5 years to try to keep up the maintenance on 2 places, 2 households. It was just a very trying time. I tried to reach out to the mortgage company to see if I could get, you know, some assistance. They didn't refer me like, oh, maybe refinance, no assistance. I had never been late on my mortgage. And one day I just, like my paycheck may have been like a week later than when the mortgage was due, like that 15-day grace period. And I tried to say, like, can you work with me? Nope, won't help me at all. And I just remember on the MARC train, that's the train from DC back to Maryland, going back home and just crying because I didn't know how I was going to resolve this situation. I had no appliances. I couldn't get the house. I didn't have the means to get the house ready for another tenant. I remember drinking a bottle of wine on FaceTime with my parents, and I really don't drink in front of my parents, and it just was not a good situation. My situation did eventually change, and I got a better job, more money, but and I did eventually sell the house, but I always had that in the back of my head, like how I never want to be in that financial position where how I'm going to pay this. Like, am I on the brink of being like, I want to say homeless, but like that I was one check away, always that one check away. And like, I remember crying like to some of my friends or whatever, but they didn't have the means to help me. So it's always in the back of my head, like, don't acquire debt, don't be in debt. And now that I have, I make a better income, I still have the mentality. I'm scared to spend. And I will help people, but now I ask for my money back. Like, if you have the means to ask me, I'm going to ask for my money back, because even though I have savings and stuff, I'm always that one check away of what could potentially happen.
Thank you, Kelly. Anybody want to go next?
My story, back in 2000, January of 2000, my grandfather died. The year I graduated that June. He died that January. And, I'm about 17. I was raised with the whole idea of, children being seen and not heard. So even though I knew things and they would talk around me, it was like, can't say anything. You just got to listen or whatever and take it all in. So, watching the adults and how they operated, not just in that instance, but throughout, has had a major effect on me as far as my extended family is concerned. Well, my grandfather died, my father's father, and the next day was the burial. After the burial, we were supposed to go to a banquet, church banquet. So the burial was scheduled early that morning. And I remember going to the funeral home, arriving at the chapel, and his casket is at the front, and we're just waiting. People are steady coming, and time is ticking, and nothing is happening. They're still at the funeral home. And being a kid, I'm like, okay, why are we still, I'm a teenager and I'm like, why are we still at the funeral home? We were supposed to already be at, the grave site. So I'm hearing different conversations going on. Some get heated, they leave out, come back in. It's just this whole big to do. Now the chapel is crowded, but I would say we were there at least 3 hours waiting because the banquet wasn't until the afternoon. And we got there at least by 8 o'clock that morning. The banquet didn't start till that afternoon. It was like luncheon. By the time everything was settled, the man that dug the hole, 2 men that dug the hole, and my brother were the ones that carried the casket. The casket got dropped. It was a bad situation. It infuriated me because I was a granddaddy's girl. So it was just very upsetting. I was angry. I was upset. I cried. I was furious. And I really did, at the time, I didn't know exactly what happened or why it happened. I was just upset that it happened. Everybody was gone. Nobody was there. And my grandfather had did so much for all of these people. And where is everybody? Well, it wasn't until, I want to say maybe a few years later, as an adult, that I found out exactly what happened. And that there was supposed to be money available, but I guess the final bill wasn't paid. So there was a bill. And they wanted the bill before they would release the body, release the casket. Everything wasn't paid for. Instead of it being a situation where it was like, okay, this is what needs to be done. Your father has, your grandfather has put so much into our church. This is what we can do for him. It turned into a situation where it's supposed to be a loan, I guess, between my dad and his sister, because my grandfather only had 2 children, and I think the whole thing ended up falling on my father to pay back. And it was just a really bad situation when I finally found out what happened. I knew something happened. I just didn't know as a teenager what exactly happened. But me knowing different members in my family, I knew something was wrong. And my dad wasn't in control of any of the money that was supposed to be, because my aunt was over his estate. So my dad didn't have any control over anything that was taking place. And it was a difficult situation for him. So then we fast forward to 15, and it's time for my aunt's funeral, his sister, and almost the same thing almost happened. And that was a mess. And she had more than enough policies to cover everything. But again, it turned into a situation where my dad didn't have control over any of the money. And it was just really bad. It was real bad. It taught me a lot about people and even people in your family. Mm-hmm. And it opened my eyes to so many different things, including money. Because after that happened, and in 2015, we made sure that my parents had life insurance. It was hard for us to find life insurance for my father because of all of his pre-existing conditions. So we ended up having to pay up for a year, but we did it, me, my sister, and my brother, so that we knew that everything would be taken care of and we wouldn't have a repeat, a constant repeat of the same thing when it's time to bury somebody. That nothing is available, or you don't have control over it, or you can't do anything about it. But it did teach me. So how I operate now with money is, I would say that I'm in between as far as a healthy and an unhealthy relationship. It goes back and forth like a roller coaster because of all of the experiences that I have had with money and the people around me and how they operated with money. I won't tell anybody if I need help. It's very, very hard for me to do that. I don't like doing it. It gives me anxiety. Um, like real anxiety. My mom will say, well, just ask so and so. No, 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 you can ask. Closed mouths don't get fed. Well, I won't get, I won't eat. And that's my mentality when it comes to that because I've seen how they operate. Like, I don't want to ask you. So, it's just been a situation where I tried my best to so when I did have my daughter, my first child, I didn't ask anybody for anything. I saved every dime I had. Eventually people gave me things, but I didn't ask anybody for anything. I refused.
Thank you, Ty. That's a deep story. So, and it's an emotional story. So, but thank you so much for sharing. Last but not least, Mr. Okorji, how has money impacted you? When was the first time that you had any experience with money?
Yeah, so for me, my impact was more so on how I grew up as opposed to a personal or uh, uh, a particular incident. I pretty much I grew up around a structure where kind of saw how money could be used as a source of control, and with the experiences that I had as a child, growing up, seeing my parents argue over money, my mom always being the person asking for money to support the family, and being the culture that I grew up in where the man is responsible for providing for the family, and sometimes you fall into a situation where it leads to more of their partner asking for money for support for the family. Growing up in that kind of environment, and also seeing my mom work very hard to make sure that we did not lack in any shape or form, even when she didn't get the responses or get the financial support from my dad. It kind of made me, look at money in a sense where I wanted to make sure that I was able to provide and go over for my family. I wanted to be, I didn't want a situation where money would be an issue between me and my wife, or a situation where we couldn't afford anything that we wanted. So for me, my childhood experience is kind of you know tailored the way I go about money. My wife says I'm always looking for the next opportunity. I'm always looking for a next business to do, but that's just from me coming from a perspective that I have to spread my eggs and make sure that I'm able to have constant cash flow of income to make sure that I'm able to provide for my loved ones.
So it's safe to say, thank you so much, Audrey, for sharing. So it's safe to say that all of our first instance with money had some type of effect on our lives today, directly or indirectly, right?
Mhm.
So the question I would ask you is, why do you think that story matters to me as we discuss money? Do you think it would have an impact? So if I was your financial advisor and you came into my office to meet me, and the first thing I said was, "Hi, my name is Terese. Thank you so much for walking in my office today. Tell me the first time money played an impact on your life," and you shared those stories with me. Do you know why that matters to me?
Well, I would say that it gives you an idea of how you could help that person with their financial situation, understanding how past instances have affected them will help you understand how they operate in the present and help you to alter their behaviors so that they can, if it's necessary for them to be altered, so that they can have a better or healthier relationship with money.
Yeah, that's a portion of it.
I agree with Ty. Like I said myself, I don't like debt. I don't believe in really credit scores because credit just looks at how well you pay debt. That's not real. It doesn't look at like financially how much money I got in the bank. If I'm telling you these things and you're saying, okay, Kelly, take a risk. Let's go with this stock or let's buy this bond. Let's invest in this. I'm like, wait, I don't want to let go of my money because I don't see the bigger picture of how I can make my money grow. That story of like, okay, she is afraid to take the risk because she's been broke before. She parted ways with her money. As hard as I've worked, if you don't understand the mindset of how I got there.
So there's a financial process, right? So everything that we do in the finance world is a process, right? From a perspective of, I need to know when you walk in, I need to know your past. I need to know how you think about money. I need to know what type of relationship you have with money. Do you and money get along? Do you and money not get along? Is it a love-hate relationship? Are y'all like, yo, you know what? I don't care nothing about burning this piece of money over here because it means absolutely nothing to me. Or are you one of those people like, yo, this is my baby. I got to hold it. I got to keep it. No, you can't have it. Leave me alone. I don't like to share. Right? It makes sense. And sometimes in order for me to even find out any of that, I actually have to ask you your past. I actually have to figure out where your mind is. And I could just ask you, how do you think about money? However, the answer is different. It's a different answer if I ask you how you think about money if the very first time question that money impacted you didn't come up. So for me personally, even in this exercise, I could tell you how I thought about money, but then if somebody asked me why, I didn't know why I think the way that I do. However, when I posed this question to you all and I had time to think and reflect on it, that's when it was like, oh my God, wait a minute, does this have anything to do with that? Did anybody else have an awakening moment, like where they were like, wait a minute, maybe these dots connected, or am I only the crazy one here that was like, yo, it was just me?
I knew I was traumatized from my financial situation.
Right, and I think that's the bad thing that we call it traumatized. But we are. It is trauma, right? Trauma. Like we actually have some type of PTSD from money, right? It's a fear, right? We all just gave 4 very different examples that said, this is how we're going to handle money because we never want to be like this. Kelly never wants to be in a situation she was when she moved from Alabama to Laurel. Ty never wants to be in a situation that she was when she was 17 years old and she saw her family not coming together to help bury her loved ones, not once but twice. Accordingly, you never want your wife to feel the way that your mom did or have to struggle or feel like you're not providing in the way that you did. All of those are fears, right? And so when we talk about a fear and what's going on and how to move forward from said fear, any financial advisor that you would sit with or talk to about, right? It needs to be a counseling session because the first thing before I can help you, we need to talk about, okay, so have you created a new truth about that fear? Like sitting down, the next question I would have for you is, what does financial freedom look like for you? Financial freedom for me right now looks like time freedom, right? I just want time. I don't want to work 50,000 jobs. I don't want to work 50,000 hours. I want time. I want to be able to wake up, and if I want to work today, I work today. If I don't want to work today, I don't work today. If I want to call one of y'all and be like, yo, we jump in the flight. This is after COVID because we ain't jumping on flights right now. But if we're going to jump a flight and I'm like, yo, let's meet me in Paris. Everybody like, yo, okay, what time? Right? I want time freedom where my people that I love and care about, we're not worried about anything, right? However, when you hear me speak, you never hear me speak about me doing anything by myself. And is it because I'm afraid to do anything alone? No, it's because I actually care about all of my friends, family, and loved ones, and I want to bring everybody along with me. But then the question is why? Do you have a fear of being by yourself? Anybody that know me knows I love spending time by myself. I am a true introvert. I don't invite nobody to my house. I don't have company. I talk to the same set of people. I'm the worst at calling folks back. I know I'm supposed to call you back. I ain't did that yet, but I'm the worst at calling people back, right? So it's not that I don't like it. It's because I don't want anybody to feel left out because of a situation where I potentially felt left out, right? It's kind of crazy how we have a PTSD from a trauma that we didn't even realize we had a PTSD from. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
So from there, right, the reason, I guess I can say the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I had a client who I didn't ask this question to, and they called and asked for a budget. And I created the budget, a very detailed budget. We talked a couple of days, spent time, made Excel sheets, Google Sheets, connected it to Grabs, all the information, literally all the formulas plugged in. All he literally had to do was put the numbers in. It took him 6.5 months to call me back to say, hey, you know that budget you sent me 6.5 months ago? I'm just now opening it. The question I had was, wait, why? Right? Why did it take you so long? Right? Like, it was urgent when you called to schedule the appointment to tell me I needed to look at creating you a budget. Right? It was urgent when we needed to sit down and put it together, and you gave me a listing of all of your bills. However, when it wasn't urgent for you to just plug the numbers in. I'm not saying even implementing it. I'm saying to just plug the numbers in so you can actually see what your disposable income is. So then we had to have a conversation of what takes precedent over you plugging the numbers in and reaching the financial freedom and goal that you said you set in. Tell me your relationship with money. Tell me how you feel about yourself. Because once I get you to understand that it's important, only until then will you even implement anything that I say. Other than that, you're just complaining about where we are and where your financial situation puts you. At least that's my idea. Of course, what you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's you're thinking it's rightful in the sense that you got to understand someone's psychology towards money for you to understand their spending habits or their thoughts about money. Money is one thing that change how we think about things, and the impact over time can definitely force us to look at money in a different light. So understanding one's thought of money is very, very important to us, for providing them financial freedom.
So, question. We have mindset conversations about everything, right? I've seen so many books talking about mindset and how you think and manifesting the life you want, X, Y, and Z. Why do you think, and even when we talk about jobs, right? Like, Ty, if I go back to something you said you were taught that a child was to, not speak, right? Be seen and not heard. Be seen and not heard, right? I was taught the exact same way, right? It was not my place. I'm not an adult. I'm supposed to go sit at the kids' table and shut my mouth, right? These kids today, I don't know what y'all parents see. I ain't a parent, so I can't take any responsibility for these little future leaders of tomorrow. We're going to call them that y'all raising, but they don't believe that. They don't believe that they're supposed to be seen and not heard. So it's a different generation, right? So when I think about my parents and what I was taught, even when it came to mindset. So like if I think about the mindset, I was told to go to school, get good grades, right? Make something of my life. I remember when I graduated high school, I had 3 options: get a job, go to the military, or go to college. It wasn't one, 2, or 3. And the job was a specific job. I needed to go work at the steel mill. I'm from Gary. It's still Mill Central. So I needed to go put on a hard hat and some hard steel toe boots and go to the steel mill. That was my options that was given. I took the SAT, the ACT, and the ASVAB because those were requirements in my household. It was get up and go to work. Nobody woke me up to go to work. It was nobody made me go to work. It was get up to go to work. When I thought about how I presented myself to the world, it was, hey, remember, you're my child. One thing that my mom would say to me all the time is, I paid for you to go to school. So you did what? You said, who? No, you didn't, because I paid for you to go to school because I'm a private school kid, right? Never, ever, outside of pay your bills, did we have a conversation about mindset and money, right? Maybe my family was different. Maybe y'all was over there getting these education, like this is how you're supposed to think about money, but we never talked about that, right? And so I think because we never talked about that in our households, right? It's hard for us to sit around and talk about that with our friends. Like even when I think about my friends, outside of me giving my friends some type of financial advice because, hey, I'm the kid that decided I wanted to get a degree in financial planning and counseling, and I'm the nerd that loves numbers. So when something happens, I'm naturally the go-to person that my friends ask for some type of financial advice. But just to sit back and we're going to talk about money like we talk about celebrity gossip, or like we talk about going on trips, or now, you know, we old, so we talk about who's a good maid, right? Like, we old, you know, we got nothing else to talk about, right? We talk about families, right? We don't sit around and just normalize this type of conversation. Why do you all think that is the case?
Let's talk about, I guess, I'm African American, originally from South Carolina. And how I was raised, you keep your business at home. You don't talk about like how much money you make with your friends. Like if we're struggling, you keep all your business at home. Don't go tell your business in the street. Like this is us. We'll work through it. It's not normalized other than like an auntie or uncle may need, to borrow money, but we don't talk about what behavior led you to not pay your bill as why you're borrowing money now.
So let me ask you, let me actually pause you though, Kel. So we may not talk about money, right? That may not be normal to talk about money, but it is normal for whatever reason. I'm gonna speak on the Black community. Let me not speak on nobody else's family but mine. It is normal to have said conversation of, girl, did you see that house she bought? You see that car she just bought? Man, I wonder what she over there doing. Is she flaunting her money? How she get that? How she doing what she do? You see that new bracelet? Huh, Ty? Do you have those type of conversations? How she paid for it?
How she paid for it? Because last week she asked me for such and such and such and such. So how she pulling up in the new BMW, but last week she asked me, and then a month ago she asked so and so. So is she just borrowing money to pay for it? What's really going on? That's
a little different because I grew up in a military family, so I wasn't raised with extended family like cousins and aunts directly. We were in Hawaii, so like.
Kelly, even think about today, and not even think about just family. What about friends? You don't have not a family member that not say they call you. I know for me personally, when I got married, I'll take my wedding. When I got married and I had this grandiose event, right? And nobody called me directly to say, how's she doing, blah, blah, blah. But I do know there was phone calls that made saying she had a candy buffet and a cake. Why she need all that? Who paid for that? And they may not talk about you directly, but they be like, that man, he's doing da work wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just being.
And they know who to have those conversations with. They know that they can't talk to so-and-so because so-and-so going to go back and tell that person. So I'm not going to tell her, but I'm going to talk to her about so-and-so. I think that people just like to gossip and try to figure out what somebody else has,
In their pocket.
making assumptions, which is very dangerous to do, making assumptions about people and what they have or what have you. Like I always say, it's best to just not keep up with the Joneses, because the Joneses may be bankrupt and you just don't know that they're bankrupt. They're probably broke and you don't know that they're broke, and it doesn't look like they're broke, but they're broke. They have the big house, but they have no furniture in it. And that's true. People do that. They
That
have
is
big
very
house
true.
and no furniture.
I'm
Why
just
would people
thinking,
trying to
like
keep up?
today, when I turned on Instagram, the first story that I saw was Offset bought Cardi B a Rolls Royce. Why do I care? Why is that the first story I see when I turn on social media, right? And why is that news? See, that's newsworthy. However, whatever they possibly, because that doesn't mean they're not doing something to help some political group. They're not doing something to help some community. They're not helping someone. So we have no idea. But every time she gets a purse, that's news. Every time someone gives her something, that's news. So I'm just trying to understand or wrap my little mind around, when did it become normalized to gossip over material things instead of helping evolve and empower our community and have that conversation on X, Y, and Z? You get what I'm saying? Like, when did our mindsets change, or when did it become normalized to create a mindset? I can't even say change because nobody told us what mindset to have.
I
You get what I'm saying?
material, especially in our Black community, people see things as wealth. We don't have, like, you got to look at generation after generation after generation. If my great grandmother had nothing and now I drive a BMW, look where I've come from. Not look. People don't know how many zeros is behind your bank account, but they can see that physical, tangible car, physical, tangible purse. And again, I'm just talking about our community. From my perspective, I don't know, Akordia had a conversation with someone from Cameroon. She was talking about her husband's from Ghana and they like to show off everything. Can you give your perspective? Because I know you're Nigerian, right?
It's the same. It's the same and I'll say in the African community, because everybody wants to flaunt, show off the latest cars, show off, their material accomplishments. Because that's what people see at the end of the day. You can't see the person's bank information. I always tell people, listen, you can't tell what a person is worth until you look at their bank account. I don't care, what you might see on the outside until you see literally what is behind, what's shown on the outside. You can't really make a judge of what you see material on the surface, because somebody could go get a credit card, ball out on a credit card and owe all this money in debt, and all you see is a lifestyle, but you don't know back, on the background they're really struggling, and a lot of times we don't talk about it because we have now cultivated a culture that talks about financial freedom, financial growth. We're from a culture where we were just tossed into the fire, saying, okay, you go get a job, you go to school, you get a degree. Once you get a degree, that's going to translate into financial freedom. But we all know that's not how it works. That's definitely not how it works. You could be making over $100,000. You spending over $100,000, you're still gonna be in that.
Sally Mae want her money.
Yeah. So I think the reason why we don't talk about it is that we have not cultivated the culture, and we're not comfortable enough to talk about our financial standing, because people feel sometimes people would judge them. Oh, that's all you're making. But there are people that make lower than people that are making more money and managing money more effectively than people that are making thousands and millions of dollars.
That's
Yeah.
true. And you know, when you brought up the whole thing about Offset buying Cardi B a Range Rover as news, you know, I think about back in the 80s when I was a little girl. I used to watch a show called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. It came on all the time, and sometimes I say something about the show, and people look at me like I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like it was a show, it was on TV. But you know, and that's you learn you saw all types of celebrities and famous people and their houses and how they lived and all these grandiose things. That's the first time I saw the Playboy Mansion. You know, just different things. And then as time went on, if you really sit back and think about it, they had similar shows. They just changed the name. The name changed, the host changed, but the reality of it is it was still the same. MTV Cribs. It's the same thing as Lifestyles and the Rich and Famous. They did the exact same thing. Almost. Lifestyles did a little bit more, and to this day, there's still shows that highlight that. You just got to know what channel it's on and all this other stuff. But the reality of it is that it's still done. You in the 80s, you knew all about the royal family, and we don't live in England, but you know all about Prince Diana. You knew everything that she did. You knew all about the princess, about the queen, more so then than you do now. It was more so a big thing then than it was now, than it is now. And I say that to say that we're in a culture where that's what people want to know. They want to know what the celebrities are doing, what they got, what they have, what they bought. And I don't know if it makes people feel like it's more tangible because they can see it, or it's more obtainable because this is what's going on. But the reality of it is that, you know, you got to really know what people did to get wherever they are. And a lot of times, things are given to them. A lot of stuff they really don't pay for. And people think that they spend all this money and they have these beautiful jewels on their neck that they rented, and they have to take it back to the jeweler. They do not own it. They rented it for the day, for the gala, or for the award ceremony, or whatever the case may be, and they have to take it back. And that's including the dresses that they wear as well. A lot of times it's just so that designer can be highlighted at that time. It's not have that stuff they don't have in that closet. Now, sometimes they do. And that's not to say that they don't have money and all of these other things, but sometimes what we see is not really what it is. But we see it and we think, oh, this is what they have, or oh, this is what they got, and oh, I want this and I want that, and focusing on material things and not really focusing on, well, what does it take to get that? How do I get that? How can I discipline myself so that I can get that? We just want what we want when we want it.
Ty, let me ask you a question, or any one of you, let me ask you a question. Let me tell you what I heard. Do you think that people also, or our culture, right, because we're specifically talking about our culture, is facing PTSD or a form of PTSD with money, and how their past maybe dictate, their past or even present dictates how money impacted and is still dictating their life? So right now, instead of living life, they're watching other people live life because they don't know how to create a new truth to move forward.
I personally don't have any social media other than LinkedIn, and I see people judge their own life like, oh, so-and-so has a new car, so-and-so has a new house. And I'm like, just because you see the good, you don't know the behind the scenes, what it took to get that specific thing that you're looking at, and people highlight the good on Facebook. It's rare. I know people go on rants or whatever, but it's rare that you see the struggle or whatever else, the behind the scenes, like Akorji was talking about earlier. Like you just don't know. I think there's a push on materialism, and not enough push on the psychological aspects. How can we get better? How can I create generational wealth? How can I better my community? I feel like we're becoming more of a selfish society, not selfless.
How do you think we can change the future leaders? What do you think it will take to get them to live in reality and not fake reality, right? How do we start manifesting the life that we want as it relates to money, and get people to realize what money is, and not the value of money, and not the value of material?
That's a very loaded question, man. That goes down to the root of what money is for.
So I have an exercise, right? And let's ask this exercise. Let's play a little game. I'm going to ask you all a series of questions as you think about the answer of how to create a new truth. And I think this is kind of powerful. And this is what I mean when I say not the value of a material item, but the true value of money. You were checking out at a grocery store and you saw a magazine. The article in the magazine caught your attention, so you spent $4 for the magazine. You realize that 6 months later, you've never read the article or the magazine. How do you feel about throwing the magazine in the recycle?
I better read that article first before I throw it away.
Okay, so you read just the article, or do you read the whole magazine?
I'll probably read the whole magazine.
And then you throw it away?
No, why would I throw it away?
Well, you have a problem with throwing it away?
If I'm a magazine collector, I will.
You're not a magazine collector.
You thinking too hard about it. You just got to answer it truthfully.
I'll probably throw it away. I'll read it and then throw it away.
You'll read it and throw it away. Okay. Akorji, would you have a problem with throwing it away?
I wouldn't have a problem throwing it away.
Huh?
Because I said I would not have a problem throwing it away.
Okay. Don't answer why. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's say you went to a restaurant and you bought some food. You bought more. You know how sometimes we get where our eyes are bigger than our stomach. So we bought more than what we would typically eat. So you put the food in the refrigerator, and a week later you realize you didn't eat it and it's starting to go bad. Let's say it went to the back of the refrigerator. Is it a problem with throwing it away?
Yes.
Why?
I mean, it's not a problem. It's getting old. It's moldy. I'm not going to eat it.
Stop overthinking it, Kel.
You are overthinking it.
You're overthinking it.
Will you throw away the bad food or
Would you
not?
throw away the bag of food?
Yes.
Okay. Let's say it like this. Kelly, have you ever bought any food that you say you went to BJ's and you bought some food, you haven't gotten to it in enough time and it's spoiled?
Mm-hmm.
You throw it away?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say it that way. Let's say you bought a sweater in a store. You tried the sweater on in the store and the store looked perfect. You got it home, you got ready to put it on, and it just didn't fit right. It didn't go right. Are you okay with, but it's outside of the time that you can take it back to get your money? Are you okay with giving your sweater away?
Yes.
Yes. Akorji?
Yeah.
I give you all $1 bill. And I tell you to stand in the mirror and rip up the $1 bill. Are you okay with ripping up the $1 bill?
No.
No.
Why? You just threw away how much money?
I guess the reason behind not tearing the dollar bill is the value of the dollar bill. I do see your point when you make the analogies of one buying food and throwing it away, with it going bad, or the first analogy with the magazine. A lot of times, we get this self-gratification, this short-term gratification that we put so much emphasis on. We put so much value on it. Like me seeing a magazine that captures my mind, I'm like, wow, that's a nice story to read. I want to read it right now, and I'll go and buy it. But over time, something else catches my attention, and I forget to read it, and then now I've spent this money that that eventually I have to throw away the magazine. Or let's say in the case of the food, where my eyes gets too big, I feel like, okay, I'm gonna save it, I'm gonna eat it some other time, and I just never get to it. But with the dollar, when you have that value is $1 in your hand, it's not worth it carries a lot of value with you have holding the dollar than you thinking about it later on.
So what I'm saying to you is, how can we create the new truth that $10 fast food that you just threw away is 10 times the value of that dollar bill that you refuse to tear up in the mirror? How do we create a new truth in the mindsets of today's leaders and the future leaders?
Like, you have to educate them from kindergarten on up. What does it mean? Like, I can take this dollar, add a couple of the dollars, and buy some stock. In 18 years, this dollar that you invested turns into $100. Folks are going to invest like that. A sweater is not going to increase in value, but the physical, tangible dollar you can potentially increase. I think it's all about education. I personally did not have any type of financial literacy growing up.
I agree with that as far as educating the children. And, it's funny because when I arrived in Maryland with my sister, she does this, she calls it the refrigerator challenge, where you don't buy any more groceries. You don't buy anything. You don't go to the grocery store. You don't go to the corner store. You don't go to the gas station. You don't buy anything else until the refrigerator, the freezer, is bare. Because we've gotten to the point where, or not so much where it's bare, where it's not. Like, maybe you have milk left in the refrigerator. Maybe you have some eggs. Maybe you have some cheese. Maybe you have some bread. You have condiments. But the point of it is because we've gotten to the point where, I said this to say, we've gotten to the point where we will hoard food. We will constantly go out to eat, to the grocery store. We're buying. And you can go to the store and get in the store and you're like, oh, I need this and oh, I need that. And then you get back to the house. And as you're putting it away, you realize, oh, I already had a gallon of milk. Oh, I already had barbecue sauce. Oh, I already had a bag of rice. Oh, I already have 2 loaves of bread at home and I just bought another loaf of bread. But we don't think about what we have at the house. We're just constantly buying. And then it goes to waste. Then you don't eat it. You have to throw it away. So the idea is, well, let's clear some of this out. Let's not go to the grocery store. Let's not go out to eat until we clear this out. We have food. Let's eat it. Eat it and then go. So we've gotten to the point where we hoard. We hoard food. We hoard clothes. We're constantly feeling like we need to go out and get something else. Constantly feeling like we need to go out and get more. That one little thing that she does, and there's other things that she does, but that one little thing that she does has helped me to change my mindset. Like, it's food in the house. I don't have to go out. It's been a long time since I went out to eat, and I love food. And I love going out to eat, and I'm in a new place. I'm in a new area. I want to try some new food. Okay, that's just me. But it's been helpful. Like, it's food in the house. Just eat that. It's there. Then, when you get low, you don't have to be totally out of food. But when you get super low, then let's go. let's go and spend. And then that way it will make more sense as opposed to having a freezer already full of food, but we feel like we need to go out and get more. And that idea alone will help change the mindset of the young people. Just us doing this has helped my children change their mindset. They still want to go to McDonald's and Chipotle, but the idea of it is, okay, we don't have to because there's food in the house. So just little things. It doesn't have to necessarily be this big, grandiose, but just different steps that we can take at home that will help change the mindset of, oh, I don't really need to go out and buy that. I have 4 sweaters in my closet. Let's get rid of something before we go to the store and buy something else.
So when I think of me and my mindset as it relates to money, right? When I get ready to make the purchase, right? When I'm in the store, when I'm looking at it, I look at the price tag, I think about it, right? At that point, right? However, when I get it home and it's now mixed in my closet with everything else that's mixed in my closet, then me actually equating how much or remembering how much I spent for it on it may not be the same conversation that I had mentally when I was in the store for it, right? Like I have purses that I have purchased that I have never taken the tags off, and I've had them for a little minute now, right? Like I have to be honest because I feel like in order for me to be good at what I do, I have to be transparent to say, hey, guess what? I'm guilty too. Been there, done that. I had some problems. I'm still working to be, working towards progression, not perfection, right? So I'm like that too, right? I just gave away clothes and was like, oh, you know what? I've never worn this. I bought this, I don't know how long ago. I ain't never wore it. Oh yeah, you can have it, right? But then even when I think of this exercise, I can give away clothes or a purse or something that I've never had. But can I stand and tear up a dollar bill? Hell no, I can't. Right? So then it says, okay, but why is it that I can't tear up a dollar, but I'm okay with giving away? And I'm the person who, when this started, I said, hey, somebody can call me and say they need X, Y, and Z. And I have given money away, basically like throwing it down a garbage disposal because I don't know where my money going. Because if you tell me you need it and I just give it to you, I don't know if you really need it or not. I don't know if you told me you're going to do this with it. I don't know if you actually did it or not. I'm trusting your word. Some situations that has bit me in my ass, like, let's just be honest. So in that situation, that's me just throwing money away. So how am I okay to throw money away there, but then to literally take money and rip it up? I'm like, yo, y'all tripping. Why not? Right? So it's the mindset, right? If I kind of recap on where I'm trying to get with this, right? I want to create new truths around money, right? One of the main things that I want Fierce to do is kind of create new mindsets, right? Let's talk about how we're going to manifest the life that we want. Let's talk about being happy and healthy and financially free and financially fit, right? Let's talk about all these things and make these conversations normal. Right? Because we all come from different walks of life, but guess what? We all have trauma. We all have some type of fear. We all have or had some type of money situation. So guess what? Nobody can judge anybody in this group, right? We've all been there and done that, and we can all grow and learn from each other. We can all use the experiences of each other to kind of evolve. One of the things I'm saying is, hey, guess what, guys? I want some help because I'm really passionate about helping the leaders of tomorrow and even the leaders of today, because Lord Jesus, some of them really need some help, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just be real. We got bosses. We are bosses, and, they don't know 2 + 2 is 4. We have people who are out here that manage billions of dollars, but they at home sleeping on the floor eating ramen noodles every day. So in that situation, then what? How do we create this new truth? We have people who are actually teaching our children how to do whatever it is, the basic life skills, right? Who aren't living the basic life skills. So if that's the situation that we're currently in, how do we create these new truths? how do we start manifesting what it is that we want? And how do we be unapologetically us? Or, play on words, unapologetically fierce. How does that happen without starting a conversation like this today?
I think it doesn't. I think it's necessary to have conversations. I think conversations is where we can start to change, where change usually starts from a conversation, an idea that is eventually spoken out loud. Teaching our children. The podcast right now is a good start. Having the children sit down and have conversations. Teenagers having conversations about money, their experiences with money, why they feel the way they do about money. Where does it stem from? I'm sure that a lot of the youth today, some of their ideas regarding money stems from what they see in social media, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, articles about celebrities getting cars, about money that may not necessarily be the best ideals on money. I think it starts with people being concerned about it and actually having these conversations.
I feel like there's a Black Lives Matters movement right now going on. We can have a financial freedom movement. Like, I feel like planting seeds in people can just start things and light it on fire. We have the power. Like, I feel like it could be one person, it could be collectively. We have the power to start a new financial movement and really push those things. Like, people on whatever TikTok challenge, a shut up challenge. All right, what's your bank account look like challenge? Like, what kind of stocks you got challenge? Like, I'm just being honest. Like, we're going to have to modernize it to this generation. Like, our generation didn't really grow up with the social media and the Facebook and the Instagram or whatever. You're going to have to modify it for the youth. But I really feel like, this group of four can start a revolution to offset what's been planted, the old norm, and create a whole new generational wealth.
I love that. I believe that we can. I think we're taking the first step now because we're having a conversation. Next thing is what Kelly is saying is, let's implement this conversation to create a change. Let's do something to say, hey, we're here. We want better than what we had, because guess what? We won't get better unless we demand better, right? Our children won't be better unless we say, hey, they deserve better. And because they deserve better, and we are the ones that are teaching them, right, how to grow and evolve, then we're going to give them better, right? Like, one thing, like I said, we didn't have conversations about money in my household, right? It was just, you need money to survive. I can go deeper. We didn't have conversations about sex. It was just, don't do it, right? You ain't married, you ain't having sex in my house. Don't do it. What our kids, that's just being real, right? I don't know, y'all parents may have set y'all down and was like, this is the person, I ain't get that. Right?
Nope. Transparent. Birds and bees from the jump.
Right? But so if we want our children to be better adults, right? Because I want to see grown men and women. I'm sick of seeing a generation of grown boys and grown girls. So because I'm sick of seeing that generation, then I'm the one that's stepping up to say, hey, I want to make a difference. Okay, you know what? I got friends who has children who I love dearly. Everybody, I love babies. So I don't have any of my own, but guess what? I love your kids enough to say, I want to do something different. And then, because guess what? When my time do come, y'all got y'all little monsters already who gonna be helping, being big sisters and brothers or cousins or something to my babies. So I'm gonna need them to be like, okay, hey, your mommy instilled this in me. Let me instill this in you. And then it'd be a trickle down effect. But it has to start with us, and I think it has to start now. So welcome to Candidly Fierce. I thank you all so much. I think this has been a great conversation. This can go into 1,000, a million different ways. I thank you all. Join in next week for our next topic. Have a fierce day on purpose. Thank you for streaming Candidly Fierce. I really hope that you enjoyed the show. Now, don't forget to rate and review us down below. Remember, the views and the opinions of this show and all of our shows are those of the guest and the host alone. With that, stay fierce and have a great day. See you later.